Hello and welcome to another edition of Chalking. And this is the place where we discuss educational issues. An international study came out recently and it revealed that grade 4 students in South Africa, 8 out of 10 of them can't read for meaning. And that's a very serious concern. To help us unpack this, I'm speaking today to Aunyana Molisane, who's the MD for the Classroom and Workplace Division at Optomy. Aunyana, thanks so much indeed for joining us on Chalking. In an article recently, you said that South Africa is losing its fundamental unit of education. What is that fundamental unit that is disappearing?
Thanks for having me, Peter. Just referring to that article, the one fundamental that one was addressing is the fundamental of literacy. And what we mean by literacy is being able to read for meaning and understanding. And currently we are seeing that that fundamental is, getting out of our grasp day in, day out. I mean, just quite recently, the Pell study was released, the Pell study of 2021. We have seen how we've regressed as a country. In 2026, we were sitting on an average score of about 320. We've regressed to 288, which just shows you how much we've regressed. And I mean, the lowest benchmark internationally is 400. So you could imagine the gap from 288 to 400. So what that essentially means is a learner that is sitting in grade 4 cannot read for meaning. And what the study says is about 80% of our grade 4 learners cannot read for meaning. So that's quite concerning.
So why are our schools in trouble? What's going wrong with the system that we're producing these kind of results?
Peter, there are a couple of reasons. I mean, the pre-1994 legacy still lives on. We still have schools that are quite under-resourced. We still have teachers that are not trained to the adequate levels. But also, just as South Africans, the culture of reading is not something that we embrace. So there are multiple reasons that are actually, making this problem persist, as it were. So in a nutshell, I think the most important thing to look at is, the resources that we find in schools. I mean, most of our schools do not even have libraries. Most of our schools do not even have enough books. In certain instances, learners are still sharing some books. And I'm not talking about, the mainstream curriculum books, but just reading for fun. Time for reading is not necessarily incorporated into the day-to-day teaching and learning. So those are some of the things that are exacerbating the problem.
So what we know is that reading in many respects is the mother skill of education. And you can tell a child, even in maths, in other subjects, those children that read a lot and read widely tend to do better at all the other subjects. So the consequences of a poor reading culture are quite severe across the spectrum. So the million-dollar question is, why aren't we reading even when books are available?
Peter, I touched on it briefly before to say, the culture of reading is not something that we embrace in South Africa. And I think one of the initiatives that we should squarely be behind is making sure that, we inculcate the culture of reading at a very young age. As you've pointed out, kids who read tend to do very well. I mean, if we want engineers and scientists, and with the fourth industrial revolution upon us, where there's technologies improving at a fast pace, we need people who can actually read. I mean, how else is someone supposed to solve a mathematical problem when they do not have the fundamental understanding of what that problem is? So in my mind, I'm quite clear about the fact that, one, we need to embrace the culture of reading as a society, not just in our schools, but at home. we need to also make sure that reading becomes part of our curriculum, where on a day-to-day basis, kids are given time to read. But also we need to ensure that whilst they're given that time to read, they read for meaning. They can actually construct meaning outside of what they have read. So those are the critical things that I think we need to start putting more impetus behind.
Does this also mean better teaching? Teaching kids how to read for meaning, not just teaching them how to read?
Of course, teaching and learning plays a central role in this particular issue in respect to what we can do. I mean, teachers should be encouraged to facilitate more the skill of understanding what is being read, as opposed to just making sure that kids can read. I think teachers, as the main stakeholder in the classroom with regards to making sure that the teaching and learning happens, need to be mindful of the fact that they need to handhold these kids to a point where they are confident themselves that the kids that they're actually teaching can understand whatever it is that they're reading. Otherwise, our efforts will just be it will be futile to a certain extent.
What impact do you think, if we improved literacy, particularly at a grassroots level, what impact would that have in our society and our country in general?
It would impact us in unimaginable ways, Mr. Ndoro. I mean, a child sort of gets that confidence, around the schooling system when they are around grade 1 to around grade 3. So you can imagine if they know they have a skill that can carry them for the rest of their lives in terms of being able to decipher things. Because if you can decipher what's in a book, where else can people hide stuff from you? Because most of the hidden treasures are in books. So if kids are able to unlock those hidden treasures that we find in books, I'm telling you, the number of scientists will be able to produce, engineers, you name it. Geez, it'll change the landscape fundamentally.
All right, and perhaps finally, I make you Education Minister. What are your top 3 things to do that you think would have a profound effect?
Well, that would be a daunting task, but if I were to be the Education Minister, number 1, I'd make sure that the teachers that we find in classrooms are the right quality teachers that have been trained to the required level, right? Secondly, I would make sure that the resourcing that goes into schools actually covers our intent in terms of teaching and learning, to make sure that we receive the right outcomes that we want. And also lastly, I would make sure that our education system embraces partnerships in terms of making sure that the parent as a stakeholder is pulled closer, to make sure that we own this process as a community, as a society, not just as the Education Minister and teachers sitting with kids in an isolated environment and be expected to produce this super child or this super learned individual. But it would be a societal thing where we embrace the fact that together we can do more.
Awunyana Molisani, the MD at Optimi Classroom and Workplace Division, thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us on this critically important issue of literacy in our country. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter.
So there you have it. A lot of work still needs to be done to make sure that we live up to our potential, and that starts with educating our children. Now, before I go, please drop me a note in the comments section below. Just let me know what you thought of this program, and also what you'd like to see more of on this particular channel. And also importantly, don't forget to like and subscribe. And make sure also that you switch on your notifications so that you don't miss out on any future programs. Thanks for watching. Until the next time. Bye-bye.